If you had told me 2 years ago that I'd be sitting here, retelling the story of how my marriage completely fell apart, I would have laughed. Back then, I was still naive enough to believe in second chances. I was the kind of woman who thought that love could overcome anything, that commitment meant staying, even when things got hard. I was wrong. My name is Elizabeth Carter. I'm 36 years old, and I live in California with my 2 daughters. Well, I should say I live with them now, because their father, my ex-husband, Adam, is long gone. And trust me, he didn't leave on his own terms. But before we get to that, let me tell you how it all started. 2 years ago, my life was different. I was married, working full-time, and trying to balance being a good mother, a good wife, and a good employee. I did everything, waking up early to make breakfast, packing the kids' lunches, working a full shift, coming home, cooking dinner, cleaning, helping with homework, while Adam, he worked until 4 p.m. and somehow always found an excuse to do nothing when he got home. I'm tired, babe. Work was rough today. Can you handle it? You're so good at this stuff. And like a fool, I handled it. But even that wasn't the worst part. The worst part happened 2 years ago, when I was hospitalized for pneumonia. It wasn't life-threatening, but I was stuck in a hospital bed for a week, hooked up to IVs, struggling to breathe properly. Adam visited me the first day, but after that, his texts got shorter, his calls became less frequent. Sorry, babe, work's been crazy. I'll stop by tomorrow. Tomorrow turned into the next day, then the next. On day 5, the doctors told me I was doing well enough to go home early. I was thrilled. I missed my kids, I missed my own bed, I missed my husband. And since Adam had no idea I was being discharged early, I thought it would be cute to surprise him. So I took an Uber home, excited to see my family again. I remember walking up to the front door, heart pounding with anticipation. I was picturing the look on Adam's face when he saw me. Maybe he'd pick me up in one of those dramatic, romantic movie moments, twirl me around, tell me how much he missed me. But when I stepped inside, the house felt different. It was too quiet. The kids were at school, the living room was a mess. Pillows on the floor, a half-empty wine glass on the coffee table. I remember thinking, did Adam have friends over? Then I heard it. A giggle, a woman's voice. It was coming from our bedroom. I walked down the hall, heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The door was half open, and that's when I saw them. Adam, naked, in our bed, with some blonde girl who couldn't have been older than 22. For a second, I thought my body was going to shut down. My lungs, already weak from the pneumonia, tightened like a vice, my vision blurred. And then something inside me snapped. I pushed the door open, hard enough that it slammed against the wall. The girl screamed and grabbed the sheets. Adam, he just froze, his face draining of color like a man who just realized he was about to die. Elizabeth, I didn't even let him finish. Get out, I said, my voice calm, too calm. The girl scrambled out of bed, grabbing her clothes, muttering apologies as she bolted past me. She had no idea who I was, no idea what she had just walked into. But Adam, he knew. Babe, please, Get out. And he did. He grabbed his jeans, his shirt, his phone, and ran out the front door without even putting his shoes on, like a coward. I stood there staring at our ruined bed, at the wrinkled sheets that still smelled like cheap perfume, and felt nothing. No rage, no heartbreak, no grief, just emptiness. I didn't cry, I didn't scream. I just sat down on the bed and stared at the wall, realizing that the man I had loved for 10 years had betrayed me so easily, so carelessly, as if I meant nothing. And yet, somehow, I forgave him. Yet, after weeks of apologies, of begging, of promises that it was a mistake, that it would never happen again, I let him back in. I told myself it was for the kids, that people make mistakes, that marriage is about forgiveness. I convinced myself it was the right thing to do, but it wasn't, because 2 years later, he did it again. And that time, I didn't forgive. That time, I made sure he paid for it. I wish I could say I left Adam that very day, that I had the strength to pack up and walk away the moment I caught him in our bed. But life isn't that simple. When you've built a life with someone, when you've got kids, a home, and years of shared memories, it's hard to accept that it was all a lie. So I stayed. I let him convince me that it was a one-time mistake, that he had been lost and stupid and that he would never do it again. I let myself believe that somehow it was my fault too, that maybe I hadn't been there for him enough, that maybe I had been too focused on work, on the kids, on keeping the house running. That's the thing about being a woman. We're conditioned to believe that when a man fails, it's because we weren't good enough. But I was more than enough. And deep down, I think Adam knew that. For a while, things were fine, not good, just fine. He acted apologetic, attentive, loving, as if he was trying to make up for what he did. But that didn't last long. Within a year, the old habits came back. He stopped helping around the house. He started coming home later and later. He got more secretive with his phone. And worst of all, he had zero respect for me. I was working full-time, coming home exhausted, still doing everything, cooking, cleaning, handling the kids' schoolwork, taking care of the house, while he worked until 4 p.m. and sat on his ass the rest of the evening. And when I confronted him, "Babe, you're always so stressed. You should just relax." Relax, I was drowning. Then one night, it happened again. I saw the signs this time. The way he'd smile at his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. The way he'd step outside to take calls, always saying it was work. The sudden gym membership, even though he had never lifted a weight in his life. I wasn't stupid, so I checked his phone, and there it was. Her name was Ashley, a 24-year-old from his office. They had been seeing each other for months, sneaking around like a couple of high schoolers, sending texts that made my stomach turn. "I can't wait to see you again, baby. I hate being at home. She doesn't even notice when I leave anymore. I wish I was waking up next to you instead. You're so much more fun than my wife." I stared at those words, and this time, I felt nothing. No heartbreak, no shock, no devastation, just cold, sharp clarity. I was done. That night, I made a decision. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to yell or break things or demand explanations. I was going to let him ruin himself. The next morning, I printed out every single text, email, and message he had sent to her. Then I packed his bags, set them by the door, and waited. When he came home that evening, looking at his phone like he always did, he barely noticed me standing there. "Adam," I said calmly. He looked up, and something in my expression must have tipped him off because his face immediately drained of color. "What's wrong?" he asked. I held up the papers. "I know." Silence, then panic. "Babe, listen." "No," I cut him off. "You listen, I've already called a lawyer. I'm filing for divorce. Your bags are packed. You can go to her." He blinked like he couldn't process what I'd just said. "Elizabeth, don't do this. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly," I said, my voice cold as ice. "You made your choice. Now live with it." And just like that, he was out of my house. The next day, I changed the locks. Within a week, he had officially moved in with Ashley. And that's when the real fun began. At first, Adam thought he had won. He was living with a younger woman, free from the nagging wife he had complained about in his texts. But reality hit fast. Ashley, as it turned out, wasn't looking for a washed-up middle-aged man with a divorce on his record and child support payments to make. She was looking for fun. And when the novelty wore off, she got bored. 2 months after Adam moved in with Ashley, I got a call from a mutual friend. "You're not going to believe this," she said. Ashley kicked him out. I nearly spilled my coffee. Apparently, she had moved on, found someone else, someone more stable and successful. And Adam? Well, he was suddenly without a place to stay. But that wasn't even the most surprising part. Remember his job? The one he valued so much? He lost that too. Now, I won't say I orchestrated Adam losing his job, but let's just say the situation had a way of resolving itself. Adam was smart enough to know his position at the company was the best thing he had going for him. A well-paying office job with great benefits and relatively light responsibilities. He had relied on his experience and seniority for years, allowing newer employees to take on the heavier workload while he maintained a comfortable spot in the background. And the thing about people like Adam, they assume nothing will ever change. They rely on charm and confidence, believing they can coast through life on reputation alone. But then there was the matter of company policy. Ashley, the colleague he had been involved with, she was his subordinate, and his company had a strict policy against workplace relationships. During the divorce proceedings, I took the time to carefully review our financial situation, including the details of Adam's employment. With the guidance of my lawyer, I went through his contract, workplace policies, and company guidelines. That's when I came across something significant. His actions had unintentionally put his own job at risk. According to company policy, workplace relationships were subject to strict guidelines, and his involvement with Ashley had crossed a professional boundary. While their relationship had ended personally, the fact that it had taken place still remained. I decided to bring this to the attention of the company's HR department in a discreet and professional manner. Along with my message, I included communications that confirmed the timeline of their relationship, showing that it had begun while he was still married. Some of the messages reflected a lack of professionalism, referencing how he would leave work early to see her and how she made his job worth showing up for. After that, I stepped back and let the process take its course. It didn't take long. 2 weeks later, Adam was called in for a formal review. Shortly after, he was informed that his employment was being terminated. From what I later learned, the company had already been considering restructuring, and Adam's inconsistent performance had put him in a vulnerable position. His policy violation only reinforced their decision. It wasn't solely about his relationship, it was about his overall contribution to the company. And with that, he faced an unexpected reality. His stable income was gone. His professional reputation took a serious hit. And in a competitive industry where credibility matters, he found it increasingly difficult to secure another opportunity. Despite his efforts to find new employment, word had already spread. In his field, trust and reliability were essential, and unfortunately, his dismissal raised concerns for potential employers. That six-figure salary he had counted on? No longer there. The comfort and security he had once taken for granted? No longer an option. And just like that, he found himself facing an uncertain future. Now he was unemployed, living in a tiny apartment, drowning in alimony and child support payments, and struggling to find anything that paid more than minimum wage. And me? I was thriving. It took me months to untangle myself from Adam completely. The divorce took longer than I wanted, but in the end, I won. The house, mine. Full custody of the kids? Mine. His money? Well, what was left of it? Also mine. And for the first time in years, I felt light. No more coming home to a husband who did nothing. No more wondering if he was lying about where he was. No more crying myself to sleep while the man next to me lived like I didn't exist. I lived alone with my daughters now. And let me tell you something, it was easier. I worked hard, yes, but at least when I came home, I wasn't picking up after a grown man who acted like a child. My daughters, who had seen more than I ever wanted them to, were happier too. "Mom, you smile more now," my youngest had said one night. And she was right. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was free. Months passed, and Adam, he kept sinking lower. He tried calling me, begging, demanding, even trying to guilt me into helping him. "Liz, please, you know I can't find work. This is ruining me. You did this to me. Why can't you just let it go? The kids need their father. Do you really want them growing up seeing me like this?" And every single time, I gave him the same answer. "That sounds like a you problem, Adam." Because it was, and he had dug this grave himself. And now, he was going to lie in it. But the moment that truly sealed it for me, the moment I knew, without a doubt, that I had won, was when he lost the kids too. At first, my daughters still spoke to him, still visited on weekends, still tried to maintain some kind of relationship. But Adam? He didn't change. He was still selfish, lazy, and full of excuses. He complained to them about his life, about me, about how everything was so unfair. And one day, after yet another miserable weekend at his apartment, they stopped wanting to go. "Do we have to see Dad this week?" my eldest asked. "No, baby, you don't have to do anything you don't want to." And that was it. He had pushed them away, just like he pushed me away. Not because I told them to, not because I poisoned their minds against him, but because they saw him for what he really was. It's been a year now. Adam still exists somewhere, probably working a dead-end job, living in some rundown apartment, cursing my name for all his failures. But you know what? I don't care. I don't check on him. I don't ask about him. I don't waste a single second of my life wondering if he's okay. Because I am. I am okay. I am happy, I am free. And he's exactly where he deserves to be. Life without Adam is peaceful. It's lighter, simpler, and for the first time in years, I wake up without that weight in my chest. My mornings aren't rushed and stressful anymore. I don't have to tiptoe around a sulking, lazy husband who complains about everything but contributes nothing. The house is quiet in the best way, filled with the soft hum of morning coffee brewing, the sound of my daughters laughing, the occasional chaos of misplaced school books or a missing sneaker. But it's our chaos now, not the kind that used to drain me, not the kind that felt like I was carrying an entire household on my back. I work hard, but now, when I come home, I'm greeted with love, not exhaustion. My daughters are thriving. They see me happy, and that alone makes everything worth it. My eldest has taken up painting, something she used to hide away because Adam never saw it as worthwhile. Now she displays her work proudly, covering her bedroom walls with strokes of color that feel as alive as she does. My youngest is finally growing into herself, no longer trying to impress a father who barely paid attention to her. She dances around the living room in socks, sings loudly in the shower, and cuddles up next to me on the couch just because she wants to. Financially, I'm stable, more than stable. Without Adam draining our money with his carelessness, I've been able to save, plan, and build the future I actually want. I even took the girls on our first real vacation last month, just the three of us, somewhere warm and quiet, where we could breathe. There was no one telling me the budget was too tight because they had spent money on a new gaming console or a stupid weekend trip with friends. No one making me feel guilty for wanting something nice for myself. I see my friends more often now. I didn't realize how much of myself I had isolated during my marriage, how much of my energy was spent covering for Adam's shortcomings, making excuses for why I couldn't go out, why I was always too tired to have fun. Now I go to brunch, I meet up for coffee, I actually live, and I laugh more. God, I laugh so much more now. Dating? It's not on my radar yet. Maybe someday, but right now, I'm enjoying the stillness, the independence, the fact that every decision I make is mine and mine alone. There's something freeing about knowing that I don't have to answer to anyone, don't have to wonder if my choices will be belittled or dismissed. Adam still exists somewhere, but I don't care. I don't check up on him, I don't ask about him, I don't waste even a second of my day thinking about what he's doing. He's in the past, exactly where he belongs. And if I ever feel a sliver of doubt, if I ever have even the faintest moment of wondering if I did the right thing, I just remind myself, I am happier now than I ever was with him. That's all I need to know. That's all that matters. I am finally truly free. There are moments when I catch myself waiting for stress, waiting for disappointment, waiting for that feeling of exhaustion that used to sit heavy in my bones. And then I remember, I don't have to wait for it anymore. It's gone. He's gone. Some nights, I sit on the couch with a glass of wine, my feet tucked under me, listening to my daughters giggling from their rooms. I don't have to wonder if Adam is going to stomp in, annoyed that the TV is too loud or the dishes aren't done. I don't have to walk on eggshells, trying to predict what kind of mood he's in today. The only moods I care about now are mine and my daughters. And for the first time in years, we are all happy. People always say that time heals everything, but I don't think it was time that healed me. It was leaving. It was reclaiming my life, setting boundaries, realizing that I was never asking for too much. I was just asking the wrong person. I needed someone who respected me, who appreciated me, who contributed to my life instead of draining it. And when I couldn't find that person in a partner, I became that person for myself. I don't miss him, not even a little. I don't miss the way he used to make excuses, the way he let me carry the weight of everything while he did the bare minimum. I don't miss feeling invisible, unappreciated, unloved. And I don't hate him either. That would require energy, and I have none left to give him. I used to think that being alone was something to fear, that it meant I had failed. But now I see it for what it is: peace. A life that is mine, with no one dragging me down, no one holding me back. Every single thing he took for granted, my time, my energy, my love, I now give to myself and my daughters. And I swear it has never been spent better.